Hello everyone and welcome to day 7 of the Propulsion Swimming Daily Podcast during the Olympic Games 2024 in Paris. Day 7, Dan. This meet is going some. We've got 2 more days to go after this. Last night's finals to review today. Tonight's finals and semi-finals to preview as well. Lots to get through.
Yeah, I mean, we literally just said before we started recording that we've completely lost track of what day it is.
Yeah, it's Friday
like,
apparently.
Oh, no, it's Friday and we've got work on Monday. Oh. But this Olympic Games is going quite well. After the sort of amazing final session of the night before, I think last night wasn't as exciting, but still had some very good races to talk about.
I mean, there was a monster Olympic record that we'll get into.
There
Big swim. And then in the semi-finals from last night, it kind of feels like the momentum for Team GB is building again after a quiet few days. It's been a weird quiet patch in the middle where just the events haven't suited the swimmers that we've got in the water, but we've got a full house who qualified for finals tonight. So we will go through those.
Absolutely.
Let's start with day 6 then. The finals from last night. There were 3 individuals and 1 relay. Women's 200 metres butterfly to kick us off, and it was an almighty ding-dong battle, really between the top 3, even though the top 2 pulled away in the last 50 metres. Summer McIntoch, Regan Smith, Zhang Yifei make the podium, and Summer McIntoch wins in a banging Olympic record of 2:03.03, which, do you know what, man? Like, that's going to go under the radar of one of the swims of the game, because that is a monster time.
That is very good, isn't it? If that time was suddenly a 2:02.99, then suddenly I think more people would be talking about it. But it just happens to be just on the other side of that in 2:03.0. The swim speed is just far too good compared to Regan Smith, Zhang Yifei. I know Zhang Yifei took it out hard and she really tried to stay with those top 2, but couldn't quite hang on to that pace. But yeah, Summer McIntoch, if she can improve those underwaters even further, then I still don't think the world record is in reach, but a 2:02 is suddenly starting to question it, isn't it?
That's in my head now. I'm just like, well, that world record is unbeatable. Like, it's ludicrous. But we've seen ludicrous world records get close to and gone. Well, that's the past few years. Like, I never thought heading into an Olympic Games we'd ever be talking about the men's 400 freestyle one. Like,
no, true.
And we were. I feel like Summer's on the cusp of posing that question to more people.
Something special. And then usually world records are hit at world championships because I know there's more financial incentive for them to hit them there.
Big financial.
So you never know next year or the year or 2 years after that, when the world championships happen, then you never know she could challenge it. I actually think it was a really good swim. I know Marchand's going to get all the plaudits for what he's doing, but actually Summer McIntoch is doing just as good, probably. She's hitting Olympic records with every race she's doing. That was a massive swim. And then Regan Smith, I kind of like what Milek did the other day. Did nothing wrong. Just you're dealing with someone who's just on the form of their life at the moment.
Yeah, she's had that in 2 events, and it kind of does. It's building towards that point where that Olympic gold just doesn't look like it's coming
elusive
at these games.
Yeah, it does.
She's got the 2 back to come, and I mean, she qualified safely for that final. We'll get to it later on in this podcast, but it's a shame because she's back in the form where she needs to be to win Olympic golds, and she's been missing that a few times recently. I think she got back last year really to that form, but 2:03.8 and you don't win Olympic gold in the 2 fly. That's tough. Really, really tough.
Really tough. She's just, like I said, she's just dealing with like phenoms, basically. She's dealing with Kaylee McEwen, who is the best backstroker, arguably one of the best swimmers on the planet right now, and then Summer McIntoch, who's just a generational talent.
Yep.
I mean, what can you do? Laszlo Che had to deal with it when Phelps and Lochte were around, and you're kind of putting her in the same bracket, really, of not winning Olympic gold. She's still got years to go yet. She's, 22? So she's still quite young. So she can easily turn that around. But they're just as young, exactly, yeah. So, yeah, it's difficult, but might be a hard one to take. But she's still got another chance in the 200 backstroke, which we'll get to later.
So we talked Laura Stevens in this final then. She doesn't quite back up her semi-final swim that gets her into this final. She goes to 2:08.8. I think she really attacked this well. She went out on a 60.8, which is exactly what she has to do. And even then she turned 8th. I think it just shows the class of this final. I don't know what more you could have asked for her, because to make the podium, you would have to go a 2:05 low, which is really tough. Big PB for where she's at. She
doesn't do anything wrong. Yes, she's slightly off PB, but it's very difficult field. being an outside lane, so you kind of have to go out stronger, which kind of suits her tactics anyway. But the back end speed just wasn't there for whatever reason this week.
She had to work to get through the semi-finals as well, a lot more than swimmers, and she was in an outside lane the whole way through, if I'm remembering
I think
correctly.
she was actually. Yeah.
So
just not to be, just didn't happen for her compared to like the Worlds not so long ago. But it is what it is, and 2:08.8 is actually okay. She'll just be disappointed that it was off her lifetime best by about 2 seconds actually.
Yeah,
which is
and
quite a
off
bit
her
of a distance.
I think maybe off her semi-final swim might be there.
Yeah, the swimmers want to improve through the round, certainly, and that's the main goal. And she unfortunately didn't do that, but still good experience for her.
Men's 200 metres backstroke then. Hubert Koss wins gold for Hungary, their first gold in the pool, which is kind of a statement given how strong a swimming nation they are. Christou picks up the silver, which I think is the first Greek medal in a swimming pool. Certainly Greek male, I think. I saw
didn't
the
do the
tweets
research for that. That's a guess, but yeah.
And McIntoch for Switzerland wins the bronze. It was a fast race without fireworks, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So the times on paper, Koss wins in a 1:54.2. Looks amazing. But really, it was only Christou who attacked this race. And Koss just looked comfortable. He looked smooth and just came through in the last 50. But it wasn't... I don't know. I think I'm just comparing races now to the Millac and
I think
Marchand to Fly. Like, those times are still good.
I just think it was perfectly paced from Koss, and he did exactly what he was supposed to do. I think he was going in favourite into the final, and I suppose it made him look better in a way because Christou took it out like a madman, which I love that tactic, mind you. I know he's really good at 100 metre backstroke, and so you obviously take advantage on that first 100 and then just see what happens. And that bravery, that courage, has given him the silver medal ahead of McIntoch, who I really thought would have just nabbed him at the end, but he just out-touched him at the end.
Yeah, Christou went out in a 55.1, which was over a second ahead of the field, which is really fast.
Well, you then ask questions of the rest of the swimmers, you see. If you put yourself in that position, then everyone else has to catch up to you.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I like it. Obviously, it didn't work to get the gold, because Koss is the 200 backstroke specialist in this, I was going to say the field. They are better 200 backstroke swimmers than Christou, I would say, but just the tactics on the day
worked well.
Got him the medal, yeah.
Looking at the times and looking at how Luke Greenbank swam in those heats, it is disappointing that he didn't manage to get to this, because I get the feeling he would have been in a middle lane, and he did look good.
Yeah, and he's very capable of going 54 as well, isn't he? So yeah, it's an opportunity missed, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Another Bob Bowman gold.
We said it yesterday. He's just a perfect Olympic coach. He gets them so prepared and so ready every 4 years, and he just nails it. And actually cost one by a bit of a distance in the end, over half a second. So
I think maybe that's why I said that wasn't really fireworks. It just looks so comfortable, so easy.
Yeah.
Which is
I actually don't know
crazy.
if is that a PB for him. I'm not quite sure, if I'm honest.
I think it's around about it. Yeah,
it's not far away, is it? But the turns were good. The turns
women's 200 meters breaststroke final. Then this one did have the fireworks with Tatiana Smith and Kate Douglas going head to head. And in all seriousness, this literally came down to Kate Douglas having better turns and better underwaters. I think swim speed, maybe Tatiana Smith was faster than Douglas.
I agree with you. And the turns were playing such an important role here. She was no joke taking at least half a bod length off every single turn. So if you add up the 3 turns, that's a bod length and a half. And then Smith was making her way through on the swim speed. But it takes its toll after a while. And, obviously Douglas is not a slouch when it comes to swim speed either, The technique is phenomenal. The efficiency is just out of this world. And ultimately, I wouldn't say it was a comfortable win. I mean, 0.3, 0.4. Is that a comfortable win over a 200? I guess based on this pool, it is.
None of that race looked comfortable.
Oh, no. So I think we got this podium kind of correct. And I was toying between Smith and Douglas, if I'm honest, yeah. Did you see the interview with Smith afterwards? Where
that's her last race, yeah.
She's now retired.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say she's the first confirmed retiree after
that. And Lily King. I think Lily King has also said. So both two women from this final they were their last races. Lily King will probably do the medley relay later on.
Well, maybe there's some talk saying maybe you put Kate Douglas in for that one, but I think that might be a bit of a big call, given that Lily King did come fourth in the 100.
Yeah, and Douglas is quite a good freestyler, you know. I know.
Save her for the end. But Tori Husk won a medal in the 100 free, so do you leave Tori Husk in there?
Well,
that's a conversation for another day.
What do you do with the fly leg? Yeah, that's luckily we don't have to deal with that. Going back to this 200 breaststroke, I think Shooton actually did really well to get her bronze. I think she was favourite to get the bronze. She really tried to push for those earlier, or the top two medals. But again, kind of like Zhang Yufei in a 200 fly, just couldn't hold on to that pace on that final 100.
Yep.
But great race, actually. That was a good one.
And then we finished night 6 with the women's 4x2 freestyle relay. We kind of hoped and prayed that this was another world record that was on the books. And given some of the heat swims from the Australian ladies as well, especially the two that stayed in this team, your Brianna Throssell and Lani Pallister, it certainly looked like it was on the card, but they end up missing it by, I think, half a second in the end, which is a little bit of a shame. But I mean, the Americans gave them a little bit of a run for their money. So did the Chinese at one point, but I don't think this was ever really in doubt of a gold medal.
No, almost reminiscent of the Brits in the 4x2, really, where it was a close race, but actually the Australians were just that little bit too strong towards the end, especially when you've got Titmus diving in at the end, who's, world record holder. It's difficult to sort of bet against Australia from that point of view. They actually won by like 3 seconds in the end, which was actually quite a substantial margin. But I suppose Titmus was probably the fastest split, if I remember correctly.
It was just sorry, I'll just correct you very quickly. It was just under 2 seconds.
Oh, just under. I do apologise. I think you may have to correct me on this as well. Titmus was the fastest split, 152.9.
Yeah,
so the whole field.
The splits across the board for the Aussies were Molly O'Callaghan 153.5, Lani Pallister 155.6, Brianna Throssell 156.0, and Ariane Titmus 152.9. And then I think the fastest one after her might well have been Summer McIntosh, who went a 153.9. So maybe it would have been really fun to see what Summer did in that 200 individual, but there was bigger fish to fry for her on that session.
I mean, you could say the same for the 800. Like, she would give a real run for money for Ledecky and Titmus, I guess. We'll talk about the 800 very briefly later on as well. Ledecky also had a pretty good split, I remember. 54.9, I think she went. She actually becomes the most decorated female Olympian for the States, actually, after with that medal. And she's still got the 800 to go, so she'll further that record as well. But I don't think there was any surprises as such, actually. I think the podium was the podium. And then the GB girls, how do you reckon, what would you rate their performances as?
As a team, I think that's a solid 7 out of 10. I think there was really, really good swims throughout that. Freya Colbert with a PB and a first sub 156.
Yeah.
It's a really, really encouraging time. I know she's just missed, we'll get to it, the women's 2am semi-finals tonight, so that's effectively her meet over. But a 155.9 actually probably would have made the final in the individual, so that's really good standing.
Yeah, thereabouts, isn't it, surely?
Yeah, so that's really good going forwards, and hopefully in the future there won't be such a schedule clash with the 400 IM, and she can do it. Yeah,
that was probably the highlight of the team, if you like, and then Freya Aronson pulled out a really good 156.1. Again, I know relay takeovers included here, but actually going off what she's been through the last year, glandular fever, which we've spoken about a number of times, that's a very solid swim and actually a really good result for her.
I think in our preview episodes we maybe discounted Canada a little bit too quickly when we spoke about where Britain were finished. I think we said fourth. Fifth, when you look at the teams on paper, is where they should be.
I would have thought so, yeah.
They've still got some go in to make the podium. They were 6 seconds off the podium in this one, so that is a big, big gap to make up. I think to make it, you need 150... Wow, what do you need? Just straight 150... Wow, all sub 156. 55 lows. All sub 156, really.
Yeah, it has to be that way, yeah.
Who knows? Teams may change over the next few years, and this relay's got a future in it because Freya's young. I mean, Freya Anderson's still fairly young as well as Freya Colbert.
Oh, yeah.
So Abby's...
I think Abby will go another time.
He's still got time in the sport. And then we'll see what happens with Lucy as well.
Yep, exactly.
That is day 6. Finals reviewed. Quite a quick session last night with...
In finals terms, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a few of them coming up now. So tonight we only have... I think 3 finals as well to preview. Yep. In fact, there's no relay tonight either. So tonight's finals are going to be a lot quicker. So this might be a little bit of a shorter podcast episode for everyone in the middle of this meet. Because we've got 3 finals, 2 semi-finals to go through. We will start with the men's 50 meters freestyle. I'm a Brit here. I'm a very, very biased Brit. So take this with a pinch of salt if you're an Aussie listening, if you're an American listening, even if you're French and you can speak English and you're listening. Ben Proud's my favourite.
I'm going to believe you.
Are you trying to be sensible?
I'm trying to be objective here, and again, being a biased Brit, it's very... I can't bet against him at the moment because he literally switches off at the moment.
So good.
A 21.38. I know it's joint fastest with Cam at the moment, but he looks good. The start is on point. The swim speed is good, and I know in the heats he took a massive breath. He took the brakes. He pushed the brakes again on the last maybe 3-4 strokes.
Yeah.
So you think there's another at least 0.1 in there? So 21.2, is that then good enough for gold? Maybe, but then you look across the rest of the field, obviously Cam at the same time. Manadu was maybe slightly off and relatively lucky to make the final, probably.
I mean, it was fast to make this final. It was
yeah, I know.
I did tell you yesterday it would take sub 21.7. And
Yeah.
sub 21.7 was the only people who makes it, which is rapid for a men's 50 freestyle.
Yeah, I mean, actually, this final is going to be electric because you've got 2 French guys in it as well.
Yeah,
the crowd's going to go insane, especially if one of them wins as well. Can you imagine if Manadu wins? Oh my word, the whole place is going to explode. But I agree. I think Ben, I said beforehand, obviously being biased Brit, that Ben was going to win, but I generally think that Ben has the best opportunity of his life here to win Olympic gold. It's not going to be plain sailing, obviously not. You've got the amazing starters of Crooks and Dressel to deal with, but then you've got the swim speed of Cam to deal with. I think Ben is just a better all-round swimmer than those guys, I think. Is that too bold to say that?
I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow. I'm just being confident because I think the Brits need the momentum building. We've had a bit of a lull for the past few days, and it feels like this session coming is what pumps us back up to hopefully adding to the medal tally.
Yeah.
Why I'm so confident is between 20 to 40 meters, Cam McAvoy didn't make ground on him, which is where Cam starts coming through the field. In that semi-final, Ben had the start on him, which we kind of expect, and then Cam's swim speed is what sets him apart, especially in like the last 20 meters. He just keeps up. But like you said, I still think there's more in there for Ben.
Yeah,
the gold medal hype train's going. I'm not. I would love to see it. Do you know what? I'd be happy with a podium for him because it's the one medal on just any front missing.
I think from an objective view, I think Ben is favourite for a podium of any colour. But I do generally think the gold is very much in his capabilities. Obviously, it's in his capabilities. It's in everyone's capabilities. But he seems the most consistent throughout the year, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
As well as Cam. But, it's very exciting. And obviously, he's not going to pump the brakes at all in the final. So I think, generally, he can go at least a 21.2 and match what he did at trials. Hopefully, he can go even faster. That would be insane. Honestly, insane.
Trial swim might be enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
We've said that all year long. That trial swim might be enough.
Yep, and he's capable.
What I will add to this 53 conversation is something that we missed a little bit yesterday, and we want to give like every British swimmer a shout out on this podcast because we're big supporters of them. Was Alex Cahoon's heat swim in the 50 heats? I think he came down in 33rd, so he'll be a little bit disappointed with that with a 22.3. But the future's bright. Like he had the big swim of his meet at the start of this, and the 50 was a little bit of a free hit.
Yeah, I suppose it's unfortunate that he was in a much earlier heats compared to the big guns, let's say. So it's very difficult to gauge where he was beforehand. But he'll be disappointed that he didn't go anywhere near his PB, or progress, actually, in fact. But from an experience point of view, he'll take a lot from it. So hopefully he can then build on this experience and take it to LA. And maybe one after that as well, hopefully. Or world champs next year, whatever it is. And hopefully he'll learn from that and build upon him developing as a swimmer.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been big supporters of him on this podcast here.
And very much so.
I think maybe the 100 is now the aim, not the 50.
Yeah,
well, this is actually,
I think I said to you, actually, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't put Jacob in the 50 and then Alex in the 100 and just switch it around. So, but it is what it is. That's what happens. But I think the 100 is more of the target for Alex than it is the 50, I would say. I agree.
And then the next final of the night is the women's 200 metres backstroke, which is going to be a belter, especially right at the top end of it. Expect the Kaylee McEwen and Regan Smith head-to-head. Maybe Phoebe Bacon can get into that fight as well, although I think in the semi-final she did look like she worked it a little bit harder than those two. Obviously, Katie and Regan just switched off and swam a two back comfortably. They were PB plus like 4.
I suppose in an unfortunate sort of way, Phoebe Baker's going in fastest, and then you've got actually Honey went faster than Regan, so they're not even going to be next to each other in the final at all. So it's going to be a sort of a weird watch, I suppose, because you kind of expect McEwen and Smith to be right next to each other, being the two standout backstrokers of this era, this generation, I suppose.
Between them.
But there will be some swimmers in between them. But I would still say that they are the two to beat, or they're the two favourites for the gold and silver. And then the fight for bronze, I suppose you have to say Phoebe Bacon as favourite for it. I'm not quite sure. But I just think Honey could potentially steal the bronze. I mean,
shall we talk about Honey's semi-final swim? Because she's lucky to be here. As a Brit, I will objectively say she's incredibly lucky to be here. If Luke Greenberg got DQ'd for 15 underwater, yeah, Honey should be gone as well.
Oh, this was obvious. Like, she went 17, like miles past it.
But we've not had the luck yet as Brits. Like, fully, we've not had the luck. It's turns. You take them where you can and you move forward. Hopefully it's a correction into the final. No, not hopefully. It will be a correction into the final. And a 2:07.8 is a PB, like you said. She spoke to us on the podcast after British Champion that she was aiming at the British record. So, and I think she said she'd like to go out in a 1:01.5. That's the perfect pace for her to go out. And if that's the logic, she's still got some time in the bank because she went out in a 1:02.2 in the semi-finals. So she goes out on a 1:01. I mean, so she's looking for it's like mid 2:06, isn't she?
That's the British record. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that would put you in the bronze medal conversation for me.
Oh, that definitely does. Yeah, it definitely does. But then she's got to find a second off her PB, which she literally swam yesterday. So it's a big ask. Don't get me wrong. It's a big ask. If that's what she's got in her mind, then by all means, go for it. She's going to be good enough for bronze, I would say. She's quite good at going out relatively strong, and actually she saves some for the final 50 as well. It might be one of those scenarios where you just go for it at the start and just see what you've got left at the end. And I put that to Katie Shanahan as well. She is coming back really strongly, Katie, but you've got to get yourself involved with the race at the start, I would say.
I kind of like Katie's tactic. Like, we're watching the race, and obviously we were watching the middle, just because your eyes are drawn there when you see the faster swimmers. And then you see that Katie was only 0.7 off where Honey was, and at the turn she was miles back. She was she was a second almost back from Honey Osram, but she was the fastest finisher in the semi-finals. She came back in a 32.13, so maybe it's a little bit like Ang Harrod did, Sterling swimmer. She's testing how much she's got in that back end, and then they go into this final and say, you know what, I can attack this from 75 rather than 50.
Yep.
I'm probably a bit more encouraged with her semi-final swims than maybe you are coming away from. You're saying she needs to attack it from the start a little bit more?
Yeah, well, it's good that you brought us up the comparison with Ang Harrod, and I've said for a while, actually, throughout the whole rounds that she's got to go out slightly quick on the first 50, and I would probably say the same for Katie, just to get involved in a race. If you've got peripheral vision and you can see someone next to you, sure, there's a bit of confidence to go with that. I know she's on an outside lane, so if you have the peripheral vision of the person next to you, that just gives you that little bit of edge in belief, confidence, and gives you a bit more adrenaline, maybe, just to be, that's what I'm thinking. And then
just be in the fight.
Yeah, be in the fight, and then you know she's got a strong back end, and then hopefully you never know what can happen. So that's my thinking about it anyway.
I like the closing speed for Katie. I like it. 30, like I said, 32.1 was the fastest last 50 out of the whole of these semi-finals, and you've got some big names in there. If your closing speed, get the finish right, who knows? Who knows? Well,
you never know. But I still think that is a good tactic to have. You just got to get involved in a race, otherwise it was too little too late. And that applies to Honey as well. I think just get involved in a race and then you never know what happens.
Okay, moving on to the men's 200 metres individual medley final. Again, we've got two Brits going in this one, and we've got two... Well, they're podium chances. I'll put that out there. When you've got Tom Dean and Duncan Scott in the water, they are podium chances. They've won medals at Olympic Games before. This is looking like a very, very tasty final. Leon Marchand is obviously in the water for France. I would say he's a favourite given his momentum. But Duncan's been closing fast.
He has been.
And he has looked like he's had the freestyle over Marchand so far. And I also want to talk about Daya Sato, who looks resurgent at these Olympic Games, especially in this 2 a.m. Like his 4 a.m. final didn't quite go the way I thought it would. But the progression through the 2 IM has looked really good.
It has actually, hasn't it? And actually, out of this field, I was about to say he's maybe the most informed swimmer outside of Marchand, but actually Foster's doing much better than what he does now. Duncan does what he does.
Well,
I mean,
Foster,
all
I
of
don't
these
think
guys.
Foster's had an amazing meet.
No, but I think that semi-final swim from yesterday was a much more
better.
solid swim, which that should give him a lot of confidence leading into this final, which he's gonna need because there's 6 swimmers here in 156 region. To get this podium, you've got to go sub 56, absolutely,
100%.
And maybe is there someone who's going to go a sub 55? I believe so. I think Marchand is just.
I think there will be
a
sub 55.
Yeah, I think there will be. That'll definitely be a medal. Will Duncan get a medal? I suppose that's probably the biggest talking point.
I'm going to jump the
here.
gun. I'll jump the gun. Just say yes. His final 50 meters in the freestyle,
is looking strong.
Whatever it is, in the 4x2 relay, in the 200 meters freestyle, looked really good. And if you look at this field so far, like on paper, I said Saito's look good. Duncan's freestyle is better than Saito. Duncan's freestyle, I think, is better than Wang Shun's as well. Carson Foster at the end of this race, that might be maybe a good comparison, but I've kind of got Duncan as well. So if it's down to closing speed and coming home fast, I kind of had the confidence.
Well, that's just it. And he did say in an interview afterwards that he wasn't too happy about his first 100 split. So I think there's more to give on that first 100, and he is going to have to go out a little harder. I think you don't want to have too much. You don't want to have too much work left on the freestyle leg, which is where I think Dino will have slight problems. Obviously, the freestyle is extremely good for Dino, but the other strokes compared to your Marchands, your Wangs, your Fosters isn't quite there. So I think he's going to have too much work to do. But for Duncan, if he can push that first 100, like he says he's going to, and then if they all turn level with a 50 to go, you're right. Odds on for Duncan to come through then.
Well, actually, I'm just looking at the semi-final splits, and Tom actually came home faster than Duncan. And split the same as him on the breaststroke, near enough, actually even a tiny bit faster. So when you're talking Duncan wants to go out faster, so does Tom. They both need to attack the first 50, the first 100 a little bit more, and then trust that they've got the back-end speed with the breaststroke and the freestyle, which I think they definitely do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Marchand's going to be ahead.
Okay.
And quite a distance ahead on the first 100. And then it goes into the breaststroke. So he's going to need a lead because the freestyle, I think, is his weakest leg. And obviously Duncan's strongest, Dino's strongest, Foster's up there with one of his strongest as well. So he's going to have to be out relatively early. And then I think he's got enough to hold on for gold is what I'm going with. I suppose Wang is really the question mark here. I know he's Olympic champion and he's gone the fastest this year. But outside of his fly, the fly looks really good. The rest of it just looks, you're sort of just solid across the park. Nothing is really standing out as such, I guess.
No, there's no splits popping looking at them now. There's nothing that really stands out. I mean, Chinese have had a little bit of a weird meet with obviously some big misses in Qinghaiang, but then big hits in Panzhang Li. So very bipolar, and we don't quite know where he's going to hit in this final. He's in the final. He's Olympic champion, fastest time in the world. He's got a chance. He's got the fastest PB out of this field on paper. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But
I mean, there's 6 swimmers, like I said at the start, that could easily be, they have to be squeezed into 3 spots.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you want to try and predict a podium? I've said Marchand's going to win. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, we've not predicted a podium so far. We've predicted a few golds here and there across all of the finals tonight. So let's run through them all as one whole prediction. So, men's 50 meters freestyle. Do I need to ask the question, are we going Ben Proud?
Ben Proud for a win.
Yeah, okay. I will go Ben, Cam. I'm going to go Manadu, man. I think he does 4 in a row. I think he does 4 podiums in a row.
I wonder, because Crooks' start is looking very good. And actually,
that would be wild for the Cayman Islands.
I probably should have said this earlier, but the semi-final between Dressel and Crooks, that was a real tester to see who's got the best start in the world.
I think Dressel's just got it.
When you put Ben into the final as well, then we're really going to see who has the best start in the world. And at the moment, I would say Dressel has the best start. Difficult to look past Dressel to not podium. So I'm going to go Ben for gold, Cam, and then Dressel for bronze.
I thought you were going to go Crooks. Oh,
yeah. Well, that's just a start, I think, and then he does. It doesn't slow up. I mean, 21.5 for crying out loud is extremely quick. But I just think Dressel has that sort of veteran experience, if you like, over this distance now, which will just bode him well for this for a podium finish.
Women's 2 back.
Kaylee McEwen
Yeah.
to win. I think then Regan Smith will win the silver, and then the bronze that's up for grabs, I would say. I'd love to say Honey, but I'm going to go objectively and say Phoebe Bacon, I think.
Oh man, Kylie Masters in this as well.
Yeah.
I think I'll stick with you. I'll go the same.
Okay.
I want Honey to get there, but yeah.
The turns of the Americans make a difference on a 200
They
backstroke.
do.
It really does.
They do. It's just a different level. The Brits
Yeah, it
don't
is.
quite have that right now.
Yeah.
Men's 2IM final then. Come on. We
Oh,
delayed
man.
predicting this one.
Yeah, we've had a bit of time. There's no Casas in the final. We probably should have said that as well. That's quite a big name to miss out. I think Marchand's going to win.
Yeah.
And then, oh man, I'd love to say Duncan, and I might actually go with Duncan. Duncan for the silver. And then, oh my word.
Flip a coin. Roll a dice.
Unfortunately, I don't think Dino will quite make it.
Oh.
And I don't think Sato will make it. So I'm tossing up between Wang and Foster for the other medal. Man, that is a really, really tough call. I will go for... Jeez. I'm going to go for Wang. Wang for third.
Okay. I'll go Foster.
Okay.
I like your top two. I have confidence in Duncan. I would love
Yeah.
to see him challenge Marchand as well. But
Yeah, I just think Marchand's going to be
the
ahead.
momentum of the meet is just...
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really, at this point, pick otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to predict how this race is going to play out, Sato's a strong flyer, Wang's a strong flyer, Marchand's a strong flyer, Foster's a strong flyer. So that's four of them who's going to go out quite quick. Marchand's going to carry on with the backstroke. Sato is quite good at backstroke as well. So really, the Brits are only going to come through on the final 100, I would say.
Yeah, we're going to be
So,
bouncing. We're going to be cheering. and
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If
gonna
they
be a
do, then wow, that'll be one of the races for the Brits, I think. Yeah.
I think you hope that some of the others push it a little too hard at the front end.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay, previewing day 7 semi-finals then. There's only 2 of them to go through, which is really weird because the 800 free heats that were swam this morning for the women go tomorrow evening, and then even weirder, again, I actually like that for the distant ones.
Oh, I do, yeah.
Even weirder, the mixed medley relay goes tomorrow, which I don't quite understand other than...
Confusing.
You
I
would
mean, it
have-
works for Kaylee McEwen, doesn't
Yeah,
it? I mean,
she would have-
that would be a horrible session for her.
she would absolutely have a triple. But the 2 semi-finals that we do have are... If you speak to me and Dan now, if you spoke to us before this Olympics, if you listen to any preview podcasts, preview videos, these were the 2 best events heading in for us on the men's and women's side. We've got the men's 100 meters butterfly, women's 200 meters IM. Both fields are absolutely stacked. You're going to have to go some to make the finals of each of these events. So tonight, we could treat it as finals, to be honest, as a dry run for the finals, because men's 100 meters butterfly, 7 sub-51s in the heats. 51.6 makes it. Unfortunately for the Brits, Jimmy Guy just misses out. I think that is just the depth of this event right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And Milak leads the way in a 50.19. Are you kidding me?
For a heat swim, that is sensational.
They look comfortable.
In theory, if you progress through the rounds like every swimmer wants to, he's going to go sub 50 in a semi.
I don't know about that, but he's back in that conversation for gold. I didn't put him in it heading into these.
No,
Olympics.
I can't remember what I said for the podium. Not sure I put Milak in the podium, but now suddenly he's put his hand right back up in the air saying, yeah, I'm still around. Yeah, I mean, they're all, the big guns, let's say, are all mid to high 50 points. So your Liendos, your Pontes, Dressel, Temple, Grousset, and then Milak just did that ridiculous time in the heat. So, yeah, I think we were kind of right in saying that this is the top men's race. And we haven't even got to the final yet. It's already exploded. I mean, it's quite. We were watching it this morning, just like, what is going on? So yeah, they're going to have to go some to make this semi-final, I guess. But
To make the final, yeah.
Jeez, yeah. What's it going to take if they're going this time already?
I
low
reckon-
50s.
I reckon 50.7 might, sub 50.7, and you might be lucky.
Yeah, I think it might even be a little bit quicker. So you're 50.5.
Do you reckon we see a
something like that.
49 in semi-finals? I
From
wouldn't put it
Milak?
past Milak.
No, after that, I suppose progression-wise, that's the route you go down. Find 2/10 and you're suddenly under 50. Am I expecting that from him? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to talk about the mixed medley right now, but Dressel just ran number 50.1 in those heats for that relay.
Yeah, he did. So everyone's on fire at the moment, and even Temple brought back a little bit of form from December, I think it was, last year, when he went 50 point again.
Canadians actually had 2 sub-51s in this. Cameroon goes sub-51 as well.
Yeah, backing up a really good 200 fly swim from earlier. Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. I mean, we've got to try and predict a podium tomorrow. I don't know how that's going to go.
Oh, and then after this, we've got the women's 200 meters IM semi-finals, of which, okay, the heats weren't quite as fast as I think me and you expected. I think we were sat down, we just peel behind the curtain. We watch every heats together. We sit down with a Zoom call and we just discuss it as we go along. I think we headed into this and thought, oh, maybe a sub 211 makes it. And then
that's what we're thinking, yeah.
There was a very fast first heat, and then there was a delay for a medical emergency on poolside after that heat, which I think straight away both me and you went, okay, these second two are going to be slower just because of the disruption of what that's going to cause to preparations, mental preparations more than anything. And a sub 212 makes it, but there was still some pretty fast times in here. Someone goes to 209.9 to lead the way. Abby Wood makes it through, and a 210.9 looks strong doing that as well. Unfortunately, very good fly turns.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Freya Colbert just misses out. I think she came like 18th in a 212.8. All the big names through. Any major talking points? I think Sydney Pickram looks strong
on the breaststroke. Definitely, yeah.
She didn't. Kate Douglas maybe looked a little bit more pedestrian than I thought she would.
Yeah, I just think she knows exactly the time she's got to go to qualify through the rounds. It's one of those races. I know the 100 fly just was a barnstormer in the heats, and it's going to be the same in the semis. I think the women's 200 IM is only going to explode when the final actually happens. And maybe even like the semis, probably, but it's only going to explode in the final, I would say. Yeah, I mean, we've got a massive list of 7 names here, and they probably, hopefully, they'll all make the final, and then suddenly it's a mega race, isn't it? They're just doing enough to qualify, and I think it'll be those sort of 7, 8, 9 swimmers that will make it through that I've got written down here. I suppose one of them's going to miss out, but yeah, 210 is good enough for now. What's it going to take to qualify for the semi-final? They'll probably be comfortable 2.9 low to mid, something like that.
I think a 210.5 might make it, looking at this morning's heats. I think a 210.5, of which hopefully Abby Woods, we did say going into these Olympics, like Abby Wood to make this final is some going. It's tough. Really, really good effort, but I think she's capable. She's definitely capable of 210.5 if that's what we're thinking. Maybe a sub 210, but
yeah, I'm thinking
she's capable of that as well.
The big guns, which is most, the big guns is going to be 2.9s, I think, to make sure they're definitely in. That's
especially when you think Kaylee McEwen's got the 2 back final ahead of this.
Yeah, that's a bit of a bad double as well, actually, isn't it?
It is a bit of a
really hang around in either, obviously, one being a final.
So I don't expect her to look too good in this semi-final. I think she'll do enough and then come back tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be ideal if the top 3 would be in the middle lanes, just to make it a bit more of a spectacle for us fans. But whether it will actually be that way, I've got no idea. But yeah. We don't have to predict the podium for, hopefully, thank God, until tomorrow's going to be hard, man.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard. We'll talk it tomorrow because I know Alex Walsh looked good as well.
She did indeed.
And so we probably won't discount her for that podium conversation. No. Okay, that just about rounds up day 7 talk from the Propulsion Swimming Podcast as we make our way through these Paris Olympic Games. You've only got 2 more days of the Olympics after today, so enjoy it. Sun's still out here in the UK after a nice thunderstorm last night. And a weekend of fast racings ahead. Like tonight's final, while it's going to be short, there will be some absolute fireworks and hopefully some British momentum heading into the back end of this meet. Yeah, I suppose it all comes down to Ben starting off with the finals, I guess, isn't it? That would really put us in good stand, and hopefully that will then push Honey and maybe even Katie to push themselves up towards the podium as well on the 200 backstroke, and then of course we end with Duncan and Tom as well in the IM. So it should be final session for us. Hopefully it will be a really positive one for us Brits. Okay, that just about rounds up this episode. If you haven't subscribed already, as we always say, it helps us out enormously. On YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Please make sure you have done so you get this feed as soon as we upload it, and we will see you guys in 24 hours, hopefully with more medals on the board for these Brits. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you tomorrow. You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan.
We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.